Alright, so this is the first episode of the Pro Edit Club, and I'm super stoked to have you here. This is actually insane to build a community like this, so thank you for being a part of it. And the amount of people asking me for a tutorial on my 3D transitions was massive, so today I'm gonna give you one basic 3D transition, and I think you'll enjoy that. So without further ado, let's get straight into that. Okay, a lot of people have been asking me where do I get my AI generated images, and it's actually all from freepik.com. I'm gonna put it on the screen. So first I'll take editor and put it on the timeline. Now I'm gonna hit S on the keyboard and resize it to the size of the frame, like that. Now I'm gonna make a keyframe for scale, move it to the beginning, go a little bit forward, and I'm gonna increase the scale like that. Now I'm gonna select both keyframes, right click it, go to keyframe assistant, easy ease, go to graph editor, and now I'm gonna change this to edit speed graph. Okay, let's select this point and I'm gonna drag it to the right. I'll also take this handle and drag it a little bit to the right. So it should look something like that. I'm gonna go back. And it's definitely taking too long, so I'm gonna select this frame. So I'm not gonna pay too much attention to this scene. I wanna go in depth with another scene. Now I'm gonna take two other images and put it on the timeline. And let's resize them, it's way too big. And as you can see, this is exactly the same picture, but I cut out the person in Photoshop. So this is actually necessary if you wanted to make something similar to my style. So we would need this person cut out, and we would also need an empty background. And you can do it in Photoshop with the help of Magic Tool. I believe it's called Magic Tool. So now I could have done it in Photoshop, but I'm gonna cut out the person here in After Effects so you can see how I'm usually doing that. So first of all, I would need to shorten the layer to one frame like this. Then I'm gonna double click it, go to Roto Brush tool, and I'm gonna drag it through his body. And as you can see, it's so much better than masking because the software does everything automatically, so it just saves you time. Okay, I think it's looking pretty good. Now I'm gonna hit freeze, go back to our main window. It's been cut out perfectly. Now I'm gonna right click this layer, go to pre-compose, select this little circle here, hit OK, right click it again, go to time, freeze frame, and now it's been extended basically forever. Alright, so now we're gonna start playing with cameras, so pay attention. First, I'm gonna go here, right click it, go to new, click camera, and I'm not gonna go in depth with the cameras because it would take way too long, but it doesn't really matter what type of camera you're taking, if it's one node or two node, because we're gonna be working with null objects, and you can pick a preset of 35mm. Hit OK. And now I'm gonna right click it here again, go to new, click null object, and I'm gonna parent the camera to the null object. So the null object will actually control everything with 3D layer selected. Okay, so now it's important to turn on the 3D layers. So I'm gonna click here, here, and here. As you can see, this little cube is responsible for 3D layers. Now I'm gonna select these both upper layers and actually cut them because I wanna keep it clean. Let me just drag all the 4 layers all the way here. Okay, so since we parented this camera to this null object and we turned on all the 3D layers, this null is actually controlling everything with the 3D layer selected. So let me show you. If I hit P on the keyboard and I move X position, I'm moving everything. So for example, if I turned off the man, then it would only move the background. And if I did the opposite, then I would only move the man. But with both selected, I'm moving everything. Okay, now I'm gonna head to the second view so you can understand it a little bit better, and I'm gonna hit this option and go to custom view 1. Now as you can see, this little thing is actually our active camera over here. And it's pretty cool because if you do anything in this window, it's not gonna affect our main active camera. So if you hit C on the keyboard, you'll have tools to manipulate the camera. So for example, this little thing is responsible for kind of rotation of the camera. This is responsible for moving the whole thing. And this, if you drag it to the back, you're gonna move away from the camera or closer to the camera. Now I'm gonna open the position in the background. So I'm gonna click the background and hit P on the keyboard. And here we have X position, here we have Y position, and here we have Z position. And Z position will be responsible for moving away from the camera. So if I drag it to the right, I'm gonna move away from the camera. And if I drag it to the left, I'm gonna move closer to the camera. You can perfectly see it on the custom view 1. So our goal is to move away from the camera like this, and we create a little separation between the main character and the background. And now, with the background selected, I'm gonna hold Shift and I'm gonna hit S on the keyboard, and I'll increase the size of the scale like this. So we basically didn't move to the camera, but we increased the size of the layer, so we're filling the entire frame. Okay, I think I'm gonna move it even further from the camera, so I'm gonna drag the Z position to the right, and I'm gonna scale it up a little bit. Yep. So as you can see, it's even further away. Now I'm gonna go back to the null object and I'm gonna set a keyframe for position and move it to the very beginning. Then we would need to play around with the Z position, so I'm gonna move it to the right. And as you can see, we're already achieving this 3D vibe. I think it's pretty accurate, and I'm gonna just move it to the right, select both keyframes, right click it, go to keyframe assistant, easy ease, go to graph editor again, and let's move the peak to the left now, like this. Let me show you the whole thing. Okay, it's looking pretty nice, but I usually add some text, and since there is nothing set, I'm just gonna type in Pro Edit Club. Okay, I'm gonna cut the layer, I'm gonna add some glow, and I'm gonna increase the radius, then add some drop shadow, so we can see it clearly. Maybe increase the softness and change the opacity to 100%. Now I'll add some text animation preset. I got quite a few of them. I think this one would be perfect. Okay, it's way too late, so let's maybe put it like that. Yeah, it's looking pretty good, but as you can see, the text isn't 3D right now, so our null object is not affecting the position of the Pro Edit Club. So let me put it underneath the camera. It doesn't really matter, but I just want to keep it clean, so everything is under the camera and the null. And maybe even let's rename it to a controller. So now if I select Pro Edit Club and I turn on the 3D layer, it's gonna be affected by the null. So that's what we aimed for, and now I'm gonna hit P on the keyboard and I'm gonna play around with Z position to move it a little bit away from the camera. You can see it perfectly on this view, so when I'm playing with Z positions, just check out the custom view 1. I think let's move it a little bit forward, and actually you can do it over here, so this blue arrow is actually responsible for Z position over here. Okay, it looks pretty good, but to me it seems very stiff, so I'm gonna go here, right click it, go to new, add adjustment layer, add transform effect, change the scale to 105, and now pay attention because I'm gonna hold Alt while clicking position. Now I'll be able to enter the expression, and I'm gonna type in wiggle, and in brackets I'm gonna add 2,15. Now I'll click somewhere else, and this will give us this handheld camera movement. I actually don't like how the camera is moving, so I'm gonna go back to our expression. This is pretty advanced, but let me just show you. I'm gonna click to the very beginning, I'm gonna hit enter on the keyboard, I'm gonna go up, I'm gonna type in seed random, and in brackets I'm gonna type in 2 for example, and then I'm gonna add this thing, I don't remember how it's called. Click away, and now it should randomize the way it wiggles, so yeah, I think it's looking better now. Okay, so now one of the most important parts, turn on the motion blur. So motion blur on, motion blur off. You see the difference? This is insane. And if you want to get more motion blur, here's a pro tip, go to composition, composition settings, go to advanced and change shutter angle to 400 and shutter phase to -200. It's gonna give you so much more motion blur, and I believe it's 180 and 0 by default settings. So if you change it like that, it's gonna look so much better, trust me. Hit OK. Okay, the next thing what I'm gonna do is select this layer and I'm gonna hold shift and I'm gonna click the background layer. So this way I selected all the layers in between. I'm gonna right click it, go to pre-compose, call it 1, whatever. And now what I often do is hit T on the keyboard, set a keyframe for opacity and go to the very beginning, change it to 0%, select both keyframes, click F9, and maybe let's make it even a little bit closer. And I'm gonna overlap it with the first layer. So look what happens now. You see how smoothly it blends in? Okay, so the last thing, I'm gonna add another adjustment layer and I'm gonna type in vignette. Vignette is making look everything better. Alright, so we got the first tutorial of the community, so thank you again for joining Pro Edit Club. This is insane to have you here, and honestly I can't wait to see you guys implement some of this stuff into your edits. That'll be crazy. Anyway, thank you for watching and I will see you in the next one.